This is Glen Young. Today we're going to talk a little bit about climbing ropes and which climbing rope you should use for different aspects of climbing. We're going to start here on the left, and this is what's known as a static rope. It's called a static rope because it doesn't stretch very much. Typically static ropes, which are more commonly called semi-static ropes, will stretch 3 to 5% if they're made out of nylon. True static ropes, 100% static, are made out of Dyneema or aramid, which Kevlar is the most famous aramid fiber, and those are extremely expensive and tend to be smaller in diameter. A rope like this is most commonly used for climbing if you're rigging at the top of a climb, typically in a single pitch environment where you have to wrap around a boulder or a large tree, or sometimes they're used for applications if you're doing what's called rope soloing. The next type of ropes that we have here are half ropes. Confusingly, half ropes are also called double ropes. Usually half ropes or double ropes will be sold individually, but designed to be paired with another half rope to have a pair, and they should be different colors, in this case blue and red. Half ropes tend to be smaller in diameter than the types of ropes we tend to use in North America for climbing. Half ropes are oftentimes in the high 7 to low 8 mil range for their diameter, so maybe 7.5 to 7.9 and 8.0 to 8.5 would be a typical range of diameter for half/double ropes. Half and double ropes are typically used in a climbing environment where there's lots of traversing or where you want a low impact force. So the equipment that you're placing in the rock, if you're doing a trad route, may not be as strong as you want it to be, or the rock type might not be as strong as you want it to be. So equipment failure is a factor if the impact force is higher. The impact force is the force of the falling climber onto the rope as it passes through a piece of protection. So a thinner rope will stretch more and deliver a lower impact force. But those should be used in pairs and led on in pairs. It's common practice in recreational climbing to belay a climber on a single half rope from a top rope. Okay, so if you are at the top of a pitch in a multi-pitch environment and you're belaying your follower coming up, it's common that people use a single one of these, but as guides we don't do that because it entails a lot more risk. These, although they're plenty strong in vertical application, if there is a traverse and someone were to swing, it's much higher likelihood that this rope would be cut. So durability is an issue with a thin rope like that. The next rope is a single rated rope. Single rated ropes are mostly what we use here in North America to climb on when we're doing rock and alpine climbing. And single ropes are strong enough to be used alone, so you don't have to pair it with another rope, hence the term single rope. They tend to have a fair amount of stretch, up to about 30% would be a high stretch value. And this particular rope is pretty thin. It's a 9.0 millimeter rope, and it is what's called triple rated. So if I look at this tail here, I'll show you in some notes on the film, you'll find there's 3 symbols, which means this can be used as a double rope / half rope. It can also be used as a twin rope, which I'll talk about in a moment, and it can be used as a single rope. So that's a pretty nice piece of equipment to have. However, because it is pretty thin, durability can also be an issue for this in some environments where you have sharp rock around. Twin ropes I'm not going to talk about too much, but a twin rope is essentially 2 ropes that should be paired at all times and pass through the same piece of protection and clipped together. Half ropes, you can clip the red rope through one piece of protection, and the next piece of protection you might clip the blue rope through, and you'll alternate, so on and so forth. Okay? It's important not to mix up half rope and twin rope systems because you can get an impact force that is so high that you can be injured as a climber, or you maximize the amount of force you're putting on your pieces of protection, which could lead to an unsafe climbing system. Next we have your standard single rope. So this was a triple rated rope. It was rated as a single, a half, and a twin. This is only rated as a single rope, and when I look on this marking here, there is a number 1 and there are no other symbols on the mark. That's at the very end of the rope. This is a really great rope for cragging. It's slightly larger in diameter. This one is 9.6 millimeters in diameter, and it has a very durable sheath. The other thing that I think about when I'm looking at ropes is whether I need some sort of waterproofing. Okay, so this particular rope has no waterproofing on the outside of it, so it's not considered a dry rope. So this is good in a summer environment that's relatively dry. Whereas this thinner rope I typically use for alpine climbing, so it actually has dry treatment. And now UIAA has their own standard for dry treatment where the rope won't absorb more than 5% of its own weight during the test. The final ropes that I have today, we have a tagline or a wrap pull cord. It can be used for either of those applications. And then I have another rope that has some special properties but can be used as a wrap line or pull cord, and also for glacier travel, which I'll talk about. So most cords that are called tag lines or wrap lines are not actually intended to be rappelled upon. This diameter is a 6 millimeter diameter semi-static cord, and if this were to rub over sharp edges, the probability that you cut it, if you have a little bit of traversing rappel, is kind of high. So that you should never rappel on this alone. This is tied into the end of another rope that would be a dynamic rope of higher diameter, and you pull on this thinner cord in order to pull your dynamic rope. It can be used as a tag line if you need to pull up equipment or a backpack. This particular cord made by Petzl is very unique. It's called the RAD system, R-A-D. This rope is made out of Dyneema, nylon, and aramid fiber, so it's highly durable. It's very, very static. Because of the incorporation of the aramid fiber, it's durable enough to use with pulleys that have rope clamps that have teeth. So specifically, it's compatible with the mini traction or now micro traction made by Petzl. You're going to use it for crevasse rescue. And this system is deployed in a bag, which is always a good idea when you have a skinny rope, because these types of cords that are really thin tend to kink on themselves if they're not deployed in a bag. So really great system. It's important that you don't try to use a different rope in a crevasse rescue system, because if I tried to use this cord, for example, there's a possibility that my pulley system with the sharp rope clamp could actually cut the cord. And rope ascension systems are specifically designed with this rope in mind. So those are a few considerations to think about when you're going out to purchase your climbing rope. And we're going to talk in the next video specifically about single-rated dynamic ropes, which is primarily the rope that we use when we're rock climbing in the United States. Thanks very much.